Revenge at its peak. When you have toxic family. Let me share my backstory. My mom is the oldest of 4 children and gave birth to me a few months before her youngest sister, let's call her Cruella, had my cousin, Maleficent. From the day she brought Maleficent home, Cruella groomed my cousin to be a beauty pageant kid. She started getting Maleficent's hair done as soon as possible and raised her to wear only dresses and very dainty shoes. When I briefly lived with my aunt, she used the money my mom sent for my care to buy Maleficent new clothes and hair treatments. Cruella worked full-time as a grocery store cashier and received child support from Maleficent's father, who was in the U.S. Air Force, but she spent thousands of dollars to ensure her daughter was always beauty pageant ready. As we got older, I was a grade level ahead of Maleficent. Despite the difference in our classes, Cruella made Maleficent compete with me academically. We were both good students and lived in different states, but Cruella would call my mom once a month to ask detailed questions about my report cards. If my mom said I earned all A's, Cruella would impose various punishments on Maleficent until her grades were just as good or better. Initially, Cruella would belittle her own daughter with taunts. Then she would deny buying Maleficent cookies, toys, etc., until her grades improved. When we started hitting our growth spurts, Cruella made Maleficent wear old dresses and shoes that were too small until her grades improved. Naturally, this made life difficult for me and my mom. Maleficent grew to resent me and often did petty things to get me into trouble, like breaking my grandma's doll collection, breaking dishes, and even fighting me a couple of times when I refused to be bullied. Mom stopped discussing my grades with Cruella, which worked until Mom and I moved back to her hometown, where Cruella lived, and enrolled in the same school as Maleficent. Then Cruella began to volunteer at the school on report card days to find out both our grades. This continued into our college years. I ended up dropping out of college after 3 semesters because I had developed a drinking problem. I had to undergo a few months of treatment. By this time, Maleficent was enrolled in college, and Cruella maintained her streak of competition by calling my mom to report how well my cousin was doing, then snidely pointing out that I was no longer in college. I changed phone numbers after Cruella called me one day to tell me that Maleficent was applying to study abroad and asked how my borderline minimum wage retail job was going. The irony was that Maleficent ended up being a 4th-year junior in college when I finally returned. More on that later. When I returned to college, our grandma, Mom and Cruella's mom, was in a nursing home due to dementia. She had been diagnosed while we were in high school, but the disease was progressing rapidly. Mom, being the eldest child, quit her job to spend every day at the nursing home, talking to Grandma, reading to her, etc. Mom wanted to bring Grandma home, but Cruella refused. Cruella had secured power of executor of the estate shortly after Grandma's diagnosis, allowing her to place Grandma in the home despite her siblings' protests. It also meant Cruella technically owned Grandma's home and the land it sat on. Fast forward a couple of years. Maleficent began dating a local pastor's son, let's call him Charming, and they got engaged in April after dating for 3 months. Coincidentally, Cruella was good friends with Charming's mother. Cruella wasted no time bragging to my mom about Maleficent's engagement. At this time, I was graduating from college, which really got under Cruella's skin. I still didn't talk directly to her but kept in touch with my cousin. When I talked to Maleficent about the upcoming wedding, she revealed that Cruella was planning to take Grandma off life support and use the money from Grandma's estate and insurance to pay for a lavish wedding. Maleficent also revealed she did not want to marry Charming, was fed up with college, she was a 7th-year senior, and was tired of living the life Cruella had created for her. I mentioned to my mom what Maleficent had said about taking Grandma off life support, and Mom was livid. She called Maleficent, and together they crafted the revenge. Revenge? In June, Cruella hosted an over-the-top party to celebrate the engagement. Mom and I chose not to attend and visited Grandma in the hospital together that night. Maleficent's actions were reported to me by her, but I'll narrate them. Cruella organized the evening so that the parents of the engaged couple and the couple themselves could stand and tell everyone how amazing their respective families were. Charming and his parents had already gushed praises for Cruella, and it was Maleficent's turn. Maleficent thanked Cruella for raising her, thanked Charming's parents for raising such a good son, then announced that the wedding was off. She took the opportunity to tell Charming that she did care about him, but would not marry him just because it was what their families expected. Maleficent then left the party and spent the night with a friend from high school. This humiliated Cruella on a personal and financial level. She had already paid non-refundable deposits for a caterer, wedding reception hall, dress, limo, etc., and she was out hundreds of dollars. Furthermore, Cruella and Charming's parents were very against premarital sex, making Maleficent's unexpected announcement even more appalling. Cruella had planned to keep the pregnancy hidden with the dress she selected, the floral arrangement, etc., and Maleficent was expected to remain complicit. She called Maleficent and raged at her several times, but Maleficent stood her ground. She returned the car Cruella had bought for her and informed Cruella that she was dropping out of college as well, which would leave Cruella thousands of dollars in student loan debt. Their drama took a back seat when Grandma passed away in early August. By then, Maleficent had gotten a job in a corporate office and showed up to the funeral looking very happy and very pregnant. After the funeral, we had a reception where Cruella called Mom, me, Maleficent, my uncle, and my other aunt into a room to announce she was going to sell Grandma's house and land and would split up Grandma's life insurance policy money as she saw fit. It was the expected announcement, phrased as something Grandma would have wanted. I don't know who was smiling bigger, Mom or Maleficent, when they announced they were contesting Cruella's power as executor of the estate. Since Grandma's dementia was diagnosed days before Cruella secured her position, Mom consulted a lawyer to contest the decisions Cruella had made. Mom and Cruella ended up in court, and the matter was resolved less than a year later. Cruella's position as executor was overruled due to Grandma's mental capacity at the time. This meant that, outside of a life insurance policy Cruella had taken on Grandma, she received no money directly. Maleficent is paying her student loans, but Cruella is still paying off other debts from living beyond her means. Mom agreed to let Maleficent and her daughter move into Grandma's old house, and she and Charming are co-parenting.